Well, hey, we are live. Welcome to the Pittsburgh Hockey Now and National Hockey Now post-game show and live chat. You'll notice I am not in the studios. I guess I should come clean. I mentioned a couple days ago I was under the weather. Well, yeah, I have it. Literally a couple bozos, um, unvaccinated, were just all over me when I went to watch the Steelers Monday night game. So for the past week, I've been dealing with the roller coaster of it. Yes, I am vaccinated. Yes, vaccinated people can in fact get it. We're just not as susceptible to it, and we don't die, and we don't spread it. But I've still been quarantining for most of the last week. You probably noticed Shelly Anderson at the game on Tuesday night, and she was at practice Wednesday doing a fantastic job. I appreciate Shelly very much. I've been keeping up my end of the bargain, but it's been a little bit weird. Sleeping. I've actually had to sleep over the past week, and that is not something that I do very much. So we are going to get to your questions. We're going to take your comments. We're going to discuss the Penguins game. They beat the Montreal Canadiens 6-0. That was kind of an awkward game to grade and to judge because I kept waiting for Montreal to really push, and instead they completely laid down. I think by the third period they were like, all right, let's just get this over with. Let's read the papers tomorrow. Let's fire the coach. Let's just get on with this garbage. And I think the Penguins weren't made to play their best in that game. And so the grades, I think, reflected some success, but also my grades on the PHN Plus report card, which I guess I should link to you now here. I think the grades were, and I specifically actually made a point to grade the players we don't normally grade, the Teddy Blugers and the Zach Aston Reeses and the Marcus Pattersons and all of those players who don't get a lot of love and a lot of limelight. We graded them. Let me share this to Twitter here real quick as well. Do me a favor while I do this. If you haven't already liked the channel, if you haven't liked the channel, right there, it would be over there. Like and subscribe to this so you get the next time we do one of these here little live chats. You are well warned. I actually didn't expect to do one tonight, but I was done so quickly with the post game and the report card that we have time to do this. And I certainly am not going to the office on Friday. I won't clear my protocol until Sunday, maybe Monday. I have to go back. Quite frankly, I'm not that worried about it. There's nothing I haven't had delivered from Domino's, DoorDash, or I guess I had 7-Eleven delivery from DoorDash tonight. They forgot my pretzels, though. I mean, come on. They didn't get my pretzels. Do me a favor, comment on this. Let's talk a little bit about some of these secondary Penguins performances tonight, and that's where I think the Penguins season is going to lie. Marcus Patterson, Teddy Bluger, Zach Aston Reese. These are our guys who are going to be very crucial to the Penguins because I don't think the Penguins stars are quite able to carry the load as they have done in years past. In fact, I know that to be the case. I think you're seeing Sidney Crosby struggle to get up to speed. I think you're going to see Evgeny Malkin really struggle for a solid month after he comes back. The closest thing I can think of, if you think back to Justin Schultz, skated for a month with the team and then still took another month in the lineup before he looked anything close to what he should have been. So even if Malkin comes back, let's say mid-December, although that's probably a little bit optimistic, Let's call it early January. He'll skate with the team through early January, probably not get to play in the Olympics, although maybe wild horses couldn't drag him from that. So maybe the Olympics will be his run up, which would actually be both dangerous for the Penguins and a little blessing for the Penguins. Otherwise, he sits at home for 3 weeks, 4 weeks without any game action. Although the Olympics, you're kind of risking yourself not for the team, which will be an interesting decision if and when that comes. So let's not expect Malkin to be back anything close to full force until March, really, which puts the greater emphasis on the Penguins' downline players, and that is Teddy Bluger. That is Evan Rodriguez is kind of an interesting situation. He's replaced Brian Boyle against teams like Montreal, against Toronto, against Buffalo. Having Evan Rodriguez as your fourth line center is certainly not a detriment. It's quite the help. I tend to wonder if Erod is a good fourth line center for games against the Metro. And I think that's very important because obviously you have to get through the Metro to advance in the playoffs, and you have to win your Metro games just to make the playoffs. And the Penguins are still now 4 points out of a wild card spot, and they have to begin to stack wins, and it won't be easy because Toronto has been playing very well. Toronto's going to drop the puck on Saturday night with a Hockey Night in Canada crowd, and Toronto's going to race the Penguins. They're going to say, okay, let's see what you got. I don't think Crosby is quite ready for that game, and I don't think that the Penguins' Jeff Carter line will be ready for the Toronto top six. And so we cycle back to this discussion about the Penguins' bottom six lines and their second and third defensive pairings, which is kind of putting a bow on why I said I think those are the players who are going to have to carry and shoulder more of the load for the Penguins than they have in the past. We graded Marcus Patterson very well on Thursday night, and I think deservedly so. I think Patterson is really having a re-emergent sort of season. He's having, I don't want to call it dominant. That would be overstating the case. Patterson is having a very good season. He looks every bit as good as when he had that adrenaline rush when he first came to the Penguins. Jack Johnson took the right side, Patterson took the left, and all of a sudden that pairing was a shutdown defensive pairing. Fan opinion be damned, they were actually very good, and you can give Patterson all the credit you want for that, whatever. But that was really probably the highlight of Patterson's career to this point, and I think he's sort of recapturing that. He had a little bit of an edge to his off season. He felt disappointed, and I think he realized that he had to take those next steps, and he can be a little bit hard on himself. But in this case, he wasn't too hard on himself, and he's had that step, which allows the Penguins to have a Chad Ruedel in the lineup. Patterson can play with Ruedel. Patterson can play with Marino, and he he stabilizes those pairings. He played with Marino again, and I think it's no coincidence, perhaps, the last couple of games, Marino has not made those mistakes. Playing with a steady, dependable, reliable, solid defenseman allows you to settle in as well, and that's exactly what Patterson is. Hey, for the new viewers, do me a favor, like, subscribe to the channel. So there's that. Mike Matheson led the Penguins defenseman with 4 shots on goal on Thursday night. And I think Mikey has to get going a little bit. I think he has to begin to really step it up. I think and I hate that expression, step it up. Like, what does that really mean? Matheson has to improve. He has to be a bit bolder with the puck. He has to be a little more assertive. I think he can be a bit more helpful coming out of his own zone and through the neutral zone. I think he can skate with it a bit more often, or pinch a bit more often. He had a great chemistry with Cody Ceci, where those two were pinching on every offensive possession, it seemed like. That's receded this year. Obviously, he and Marino didn't necessarily have that telekinesis that he had with Ceci. So Matheson hasn't been bad, but I think Matheson can be better for the Penguins. And Matheson, and I don't want to say he's the second best defenseman because Brian Dumoulin is very good at what he does, but Matheson is probably the second most important Penguins defenseman because he's that second offensive threat. He's that second tier guy who will eat more than 20 minutes and essentially have to fill in that role behind Letang to carry the puck, to add some offensive pressure, to create some chances and some points. Matheson, like I said, led the Penguins with 4 shots, led the Penguins defenseman with 4 shots tonight. I'd like to see him begin to build on that and be a little bit more confident. The Penguins' blue line last year was one of the top 5 scoring units in the league. That propelled the overall team to be one of the most high-scoring teams in the NHL. That's not the case this year, obviously. The Penguins have a ton of shots. They're not getting the second and third shots, which is maybe a good transition into the Penguins' issues here. And by the way, if you want to talk about the Penguins' sale or anything else, go ahead and pop on to the comments section. We are live here at 11:13 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I know I did this spur of the moment. We don't have a lot of the followers on our channel, so I know our viewership is going to be quite down. I try not to get too discouraged by that. We'll just keep building. Make sure you like and subscribe so we can build that back up to several thousand, where we had it with the other channel. But I had to share the other channel with some other folks, and I don't like sharing, especially when I have other people to share with, and I have all of my contractors and employees with National Hockey Now to share with. And so that's what we're doing here with the National Hockey Now channel. We want you want to share this with my other writers across the league. We have 15 now, by the way, and we're about to add 16 contracts signed. Big name too. You know him, you've read him, and it's on the way. But anyway, let's transition to the Penguins' issues going forward, because I don't think a 6-0 win over a hapless Montreal Canadiens erases those issues, and I don't even think it solved a lot of them. Sidney Crosby will continue to progress. That much we know. So the couple defensive miscues in the first period actually reminded me very much of Crosby's line against the New York Islanders in round 1 last spring, where you're like, oh, what the heck is going on there? I saw that a bit in the first period with Crosby. When he's off his game or when he's coming back, you really sort of notice those little things that he typically does. And so when he doesn't do them, you're like, oh, okay. And that's what I saw. Crosby will keep getting better. The other issues, though, is anybody going to start playing at the net? You look at the Penguins' goals tonight. They converted their chances. A 3-on-1 Crosby finished. Teddy Bluger converted a 2-on-0 with Zach Aston Reese and converted a breakaway. Jake Gensel's long-range turning shot was really kind of a softie. I thought Danton Heinen's power play-ish goal, I don't know how they're going to rule that yet. I don't know if that 1 second, which way they're going to, I don't know if they're going to call it a power play goal or not. But I thought that was a bit of a softie too, because the puck hit off the back wall and had time to come all the way back to the slot. If Jason Zucker pops that in, you say Primo didn't have a chance. But Primo was kind of centered on the top of his crease, didn't have the right angle on the shooter, so I would call that a soft goal as well. Otherwise, the Penguins did not take advantage of the depleted Montreal Canadiens defense. and really bump and grind and make Primo's life miserable. Even up 3-0, don't care. You want to be getting in his kitchen. You want to be getting in that crease. You want to be hacking and whacking and bouncing pucks there. Heinen did have 2 rebound attempts, and I guess his goal counts as one, despite the fact it was 20, 25 feet away from the net. So that kind of doesn't make it a rebound chance to me. The Penguins have to find that willingness, that desire, that ability to get into that 5-foot area around the net. They have to battle defensemen for all they're worth, and they have to get sticks on pucks, and they have to tie up sticks so that their teammate, so that if they do happen to get a second or third stick near the net, there's a chance that one of the black and gold get a stick on it rather than the opposing defenseman. Right now, opposing defensemen pretty much own that area. Goalies are far too comfortable. That's not a recipe to win a lot of hockey games, especially against more talented teams. Jacob, I see your question. Let me get to that in just a couple seconds. In fact, I wrote about that. Jacob stole a topic from Patrick Damp from KDKA. Did Damp go legit? I'd be happy for him. I hate to see when people are there was an old angry blog I know he worked for. Someone tried to put us in touch because I was hiring a few years ago. I was like, wait a second. the blog had totally ripped me to shreds. I'm like, I'm not hiring somebody from a blog that tees off on me. If Damp went legit, that would be awesome. I heard he actually worked in hockey for a bit. Okay. Anyway, Jacob, let's get to your question. The sale of the team impact re-signing 71 and 58. I wrote about this, what's today? Thursday? So it would have been Wednesday morning. That's one of my questions because, look, we don't know until we know. They're going to say all of the right things over the next several days, right? We're going to cover the story, whether it be John Henry or whoever the controlling partner or person overseeing the Penguins is going to be. They're going to say all of the right things. You're not going to have a guy walk into the press conference and say, hell yeah, they're gone, buddy. Not going to happen. And by the same token, they're not going to say we're absolutely going to re-sign them. The bigger question is, the Penguins have a bit of a unique situation in their history. I don't remember them having a president of hockey operations and a president of business operations or president overall like Morehouse and Brian Burke. I don't recall that sort of situation. I know that there was a kind of a dual presidency role when Morehouse first came to the Penguins with Ken Sawyer. And obviously 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. I'm curious how this is going to play out with the Penguins' top management. From everything we've read, no changes are planned. That doesn't mean changes won't become necessary down the road as things settle in. If you've ever been through, wherever worked at a company that was bought or sold, or did the buying, things change. The best of intentions or even the best laid plans often change when things become apparent. So I'll be watching the top of the Penguins organization. How much power will Ron Hextall be given? Right? Because Ron Hextall interviewed with Mario Lemieux and David Morehouse. I don't know if separately or together or, probably both, quite frankly. And what we know is that Mario Lemieux set the course a couple years ago that the Penguins organization was going to ride and die with their core players, Crosby, Malkin, and Letang. That was Lemieux's belief. He said, let's do it. We're going to stay with these guys. And the organization followed in that direction. Look, if Lemieux said to Jim Rutherford, hey, you can trade them if you want, that's a whole different ballgame. And Rutherford probably would have, that would have become apparent, right? That would have become obvious that Rutherford had really the carte blanche to do that. But instead, everybody adopted the company line. They should retire as Pittsburgh Penguins. That's very important because that came from the top down. And quite frankly, I think if it didn't come from the top down, you would have seen the changes a year ago or even 2 years ago. Maybe even in the last few months, I think you would have seen those changes. I have written and I have opined that perhaps the Penguins are letting this play out in a way such that that they're letting the players choose if the Penguins continue to ride or die with the core. If they're out of the playoffs, let's say they're 4 or 6 points out of a wild card spot come the trade deadline, which is what I want to say in March this year, March 12th or so. If they're that far out, then you start looking at the future in an entirely different way. But if they're in the playoffs, right? If they're in the playoff picture, then you look at it as another run, another chance. But if they're out, then you're looking at these veterans like, how much longer you guys want to be here? Their value goes down as well. Their contract value goes down because, sure, the player might be worth $8 million on the open market, but if you're going to miss the playoffs with them, well, how much are they really worth to you? And I think a new ownership very well could bring a new perspective on this. We have to wait and see. I mean, we really do. I'm a little bit dubious of some of the sources right now because Hextall's inner circle is very close. And I think everyone's going to find out. I think right now words are meaningless. We'll report the story and we'll write, but take a bit of salt, take a little bit of some healthy skepticism to this point. That I don't think we'll know the story. I don't think Fenway knows the story either. They're buying the Pittsburgh Penguins. I don't think they're buying Chris Letang and Evgeny Malkin. Right? They're buying potential. They're buying all of that. One thing it could change because Fenway obviously has very deep pockets. They've got money. And perhaps making the playoffs this year to recoup some of the COVID losses will not be as important. Perhaps they can absorb some of the business losses that the Pittsburgh Penguins organization has accrued. They can absorb those a bit easier than, say, Mario. What are the Penguins selling for? About $900 million, give or take, $850, $900. That's a boatload of money, and that actually exceeds, I think, the Forbes and the Sportico value. And so when they say Mario Lemieux is retaining some ownership, if the price is that high, I would be hard pressed to think Lemieux's stake is anything more than figurehead. Again, I don't know. We're going to find out a lot of this as the answers come. Why don't more teams have deals in place with players and move them at the deadline to Jacob, I don't understand your question that you're stealing from Patrick Damp. Why don't more teams have deals in place with players? And then because here's the deal with that exists in the fan universe, right? All these wink and a nod deals. It's happened a couple times in the NHL, but you know what? A player gets traded and he's like, "Oh, I want to go back. I want to go back." But it's like moving to a new place. All of a sudden, you're like, "This is kind of cool. I like these guys. I like this team." Or once it changes, once your perception changes, and once your horizon changes, everything changes. And so going back almost seems like retreat for a lot of guys. And look. Let's say they trade. You're talking about Letang. Let's say him specifically. Once Once that bubble is burst for Letang and he's traded, and he can no longer say he spent his entire career with the Pittsburgh Penguins, which is something very important to him. I think just the very idea of that is specifically important to him. So once that is over, he's going to look at the Penguins like almost like going back to high school. Why would I go back when I can go to this team for more money and win a Stanley Cup, or that team and win a Stanley Cup, or I can go to this team and the fan base doesn't hate me? Believe me, of all the players, I think he's gotten better as he's been older. I think he's tuned out the sports media and the fan base to a large degree. But when he was younger, he knew everybody, what everybody wrote. One of my writers, 2018, summer of 18, wrote a very complimentary piece of Chris Letang. And the next day, DM shows up. Hey, thank you very much. And it was, to my young writer, this was a big deal. But, Letang knew what everybody wrote, good and bad about him. That's not a good way to be as an athlete, especially here in Pittsburgh with as many, I would say, with as many bad hockey opinions and as much bad hockey take. And, look, there's a few Penguins media people in town. And I should rephrase that. Some hockey people in media in town. Credit where it's due. Mark Madden knows his pucks like nobody. I hope you put me in that category as well. But there's a lot of folks who cover the Steelers 10 months a year, 11 months a year, and show up for a few hockey games and then pontificate. And you're like, oh, God, help me. So there's a lot of bad hockey opinions. Letang might look at a market like, I don't know, see where Fleury's going if he stays in Chicago, or if they go to Vegas or whatever it might be. Then, you finish your career with some buddies in a fun situation, and away you go. So no, those wink and a nod deals, hey, come on back after we trade you, they've happened a couple times, but more often than not, they absolutely fall apart, and players see that the grass is just as green in a lot of other places. Stanley Cup closing in? What? EB Bud, you drinking tonight? What do you mean by that, brother? You mean is the window closing? I don't even know where to go with that. So let's talk about a couple other of the Penguins issues today. In fact, let's see here. Let me get back to the Pittsburgh Hockey Now homepage. I wish I could, all the good equipment is back in the studio in downtown Pittsburgh, but I'm not going to venture out into public just in case people are on the floor or milling about in the elevators. When you've got the 19, you don't go out in public, right? Okay. Let's see here. Where is it? We put up like 6 stories today. It's incredible. 7 with the gambling odds. The Penguins' 3 missing ingredients. And here, I'm going to post these for you. There you go. I think finding somebody to play at the net front is wildly important for the Penguins, right? And I'm going to share this live chat again with a little note for everybody. So make sure while I do this, you subscribe and like us. Okay. In addition to getting some net front play for the Penguins, I think they're also going to need a winger for Jeff Carter. Is it Evan Rodriguez? I guess Rodriguez might be the 4th line center. Well, no, I guess Crosby, Malkin, Carter, Bluger. There's your 4 centers, though I still remain a proponent of putting Evgeny Malkin on the wing when he comes back, either for Jeff Carter for Sidney Crosby or whomever. But I think I would probably try to ease Evgeny Malkin into the next stage of his career. Let that shot go, man. Just go for it. Bulldoze to the net. I mean, Malkin could be a great power forward, even at 35 years old. The dude is just strong as an ox. I think perhaps less skating would be better. Maybe the more contact, because I could see him being a bulldozer in the wings. But if he's initiating the contact instead of taking it, which is the prerogative of a center versus a wing, on the winger, you're diving into the boards and you're hitting other people rather than going back on a puck and getting hit, or defending deep in your zone and getting hit. Wingers don't necessarily have to go as deep into the zone. There's less skating. There's less energy expended. I think Malkin could really focus on his dynamic offensive skills. Claude Giroux did a wonderful job of that transition to the left wing a few years ago with Sean Couturier in Philadelphia. I see Malkin being able to do that, but that's my 2 cents. Let's talk more about what the Penguins will probably do. I don't think Mike Sullivan is a big out of the box sort of guy. He's more of a put the right pieces in the right places and get them to work sort of guy. So where does Evan Rodriguez fit? He probably fits in on the third line wing. I don't know. I like Evan Rodriguez. I think he is having a wonderful season. Do I see him as a legit top 9 kind of scorer? Maybe not. I think the Penguins could get a bigger, stronger winger for Jeff Carter and really solidify their top 9, and then let the fourth line kind of form itself, be it Aston Reese, Bluger, and McGinn, or Boyle or Lafferty or whomever they end up choosing to put on that. That's one way. I think another issue the Penguins have to take a look at is the right side of their defense. Chad Ruedel has been steady. He's been just fine. They can upgrade that, because really I think John Marino has had a very big pendulum this year. Marino has been very good and very not good at times. You'd like to see him find a rhythm and kind of get that sort of momentum that he had in his rookie year when he started off well, and it just kind of snowballed in a good way for him. You'd like to see him kind of find that rhythm. There are times when it feels like he's trying to be John Marino, or he's trying to do too much, and that's when he gets in trouble, especially in the defensive zone. Playing with Marcus Patterson helps a great deal, but you still get the feeling that Marino wants to do more, to be more, and bridling back that desire and playing hard in the smarter ways could certainly help him. But moving him to a third pairing would help as well, right? So the Penguins need some right side help, whether it's to upgrade on Chad Ruedel or upgrade on John Marino in the second pair to move Marino back to the third pair. They could do something there that that increases their output from the blue line, which to this point, I think has been average at best, even a little bit below average, especially when you watched how good they were last year and how much it improved their team with such a dynamic blue line. I think they're a large part missing that this year. And, the Penguins certainly need a spark plug. They took care of a cream puff on Thursday night when they beat the Montreal Canadiens. They absolutely they steamrolled the Canadiens, who were ready to give up immediately. And Saturday's going to be a big test against Toronto, though Toronto will try to skate them out of the building, not hit them out of the building. By the way, get your comments and your stuff over there. Happy to answer them. In fact, you're part of this. You're the live chat. You're the chat part. I'm the live part. You're the chat part. So spread this around, like and share it, and do all the stuff that you've helped us to do in the past. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, the spark plug. In successive years, they've lost Patrick Hornquist, then lost Brandon Tanev. I don't think they have an adequate source of energy. There's no one who picks everybody up. There's no one that they feed off of. I mean, sure, Sidney Crosby, but I think after a time, you take that for granted. When Sid is dealing, you take that for granted a little bit, like he's just supposed to. You need those secondary sources of power and energy that those other players provided. It's not a knock on Brock McGinn, who was, everyone go, oh, he's the Tanev replacement. I think on the ice, certainly, he seems like a decent human being. He's not kicking puppies or robbing old ladies, but he's not that big personality. He doesn't do those big things on the ice. He doesn't race down and slam into somebody, and then race down the other end of the ice and slam into somebody there. There isn't that momentum builder on the Penguins roster or their lineup right now. You've got a lot of professionals. You've got a lot of guys playing hockey. You don't necessarily have a lot of guys breaking the molds or bringing those jolts of energy and lightning, which can really spark a team. I think the Penguins, because of their advanced age, because of their history of success, I think they need that. I think they need some jumper cables occasionally. Look, how often in the last 14 or 15 years have the Pittsburgh Penguins laid down to die against the Washington Capitals? Almost never. And they let the Capitals hang a 6 spot on them on Sunday. I don't care if they played the night before. That's kind of irrelevant. That's part of the NHL. They were never in that game. They played to the perimeter. Washington put a few goals in, and that was the end. How often does that happen? The Penguins need some fight back, some of that energy. So those are really the three things that I think that the Penguins are primarily lacking. We can talk about a backup goalie, or we can talk about some of the periphery things, but on a night-to-night basis, those are the three things. Let me take a look at some of the comments here. Brandon has been in Zucker's corner, hoping that he bounces back, but just for whatever reason, he hasn't fit and gives him Brassard flashbacks. Zucker was good on Crosby's line when we acquired him. I think Zucker's been one of the better Penguins forwards. He is one of those guys you watch, and I understand why he can be a little bit frustrating and polarizing for Penguins fans, because when you watch him, he seems to have that energy, and he seems to go. But this season is a little bit different. I want to praise him specifically because he's been one of the few players who has gone to the net and done some battling there. But he also does default to the perimeter, and he kind of defaults to a playmaker rather than a mix-it-up sort of winger. He looks like a mix-it-up winger, and all of his skills are a mix-it-up winger. But he doesn't necessarily play like a mix-it-up winger. He's gotten to the net more often this year, and I think he's having a much better year. He certainly, I can't imagine him scoring 30 goals like he did several years ago. I think he's that 15 to 20 goal guy with speed, who's a well-liked guy. But I understand what you're saying, that for $5.5 million, you're asking what else can we get? He's kind of a borderline in that case. Can you do better? Maybe. Not guaranteed. You can certainly try, but you also run the risk of getting something that doesn't work. Tanner Pearson sort of player for Jason Zucker. You certainly won't get Kalen Addison and a number 1 pick for Zucker in return. Let me see here. Oh yeah, Mark Pissick. I've put Mark in a couple of my articles already, Brandon. I don't know if you saw them. Looking at some of the spare defensemen around the league who could upgrade the Penguins' third pair, Mark is is a guy we put on there. We've been kind of watching him since Florida last year. I don't know that the Penguins are really interested, but I think he could be a little bit a step up, and I think he's playing pretty well for Buffalo too. John was wondering if you know from your information, what are Pens players doing to improve their shootout goals? Oh, very easy. We see to practice. They're practicing them. But the funny thing about that, there's no magic bullet to a shootout, right? There's no, oh, I've got this secret super duper move that's guaranteed to work, because as soon as you think you do, the goalie reacts in a way you don't anticipate, and it's all blown to hell. And both players, goalie and shooter, are now in a moment of reaction, action reaction, game of chicken, whatever it is. And there's a reason why, 1/3 is a good percentage. So that's just kind of, you have those skills or you don't. By the way, you know who's like 40% on shootouts for their career? Jack Johnson. So take it for whatever it's worth. Let's see here. Okay. Doctor says hello. All right. For some reason, it's very small. Oh, Brandon reads every article and appreciates my dedication and hard work. Thank you so much. I am the best news outlet for the Penguins. I agree. We should tell the Penguins that more often. We definitely probably should. Let's see here. Going through the comments, I apologize if I've missed yours. When Malkin comes back, assuming everyone is healthy, long shot, yeah, it kind of seems like it, doesn't it? Who comes out of the lineup? It'll be a rotation between Erod, Simone, Czar, and McGinn. I thought Zach Aston-Reese had his first good game of the season against Montreal, didn't he? He finally looked like a bit of a power forward. He finally had a little bit of assertion, and he's been hitting everything that moved, but it really didn't feel like he was impactful with those hits. He was, third or fourth in the league up until this week. I don't know if he still is, because that stat seemed a little bit empty to me. It's like a guy who has 8 goals, 3 are empty netters, and 3 more were when his team was behind by 4. And you're like, oh, those goals didn't matter as much. I like Zach Aston-Reese very much, both as a person and as a player. I'm a big believer in the fact that he has 15 goals in him as a player. I think he could be a very good third or fourth line power forward who chips in some offense and plays great defense, penalty killing. I believe that's his ceiling, but he has to get there. And I think his COVID recovery has been long. Hey, let me tell you, COVID is no joke. It'll screw with you. I fell asleep today about 3:00. Get this. My body went to sleep before my mind did. I was literally watching myself snore. I was just so tired. I was like, all right, just let me go. And I faded off for a comatose 2 hours. I've been kind of doing that every day, it seems like, just taking these comatose 2-hour, 3-hour naps to get through this. And I feel pretty good most of the time. But there are these when it feels like a freight train hit you. It's such a weird bug. It'll be different symptoms. One day your nose is a faucet, the next day your head, the next day you're kind of coughing a little bit and sneezing, and then the next day you're kind of fine, just exhausted. And it's been funky. I've also been doing some research, not my own research. I'm actually reading experts, and I wish I had been able to get the booster shot a little more quicker, or get it quicker. But getting the vaccine, and then later on, like 8 months later, we're seeing a lot of these breakthrough cases at 6, 7, 8 months after your vaccination. It's not a coincidence in that time period. Kind of doing it this way really mitigates any danger, but it just might give me a super immunity. If only it gave me superpowers, huh? That would be awesome. Anyway, fire away on your questions. Let's see here. Mark says, any thoughts on who's been progressing, lacking in Wilkes-Barre Scranton so far? Matt, I'd love to answer your question. I have not been able to really sit down and watch a full Wilkes-Barre Scranton game yet this season. I keep in touch with Nick Hart, who's just a good dude. He's the play-by-play and the PR guy up in Wilkes-Barre. He kind of drops me some updates and lets me know, who's looking good and maybe who's not. I've been surprised. Sam Poulin is putting the puck in the net. I haven't heard Nathan Legare's name quite as much. I haven't seen his name in the updates, that I've been provided. So we'll see there. I will tell you that the goalies have been outstanding. Philip Lindenberg has been extraordinary, the undrafted free agent from UMass. By the way, have you? I don't think I can actually share this screen with you. Look at a picture of Philip Lindbergh, and then look at a picture of 1980s David Bowie. It's kind of scary how much he actually has that very deep voice too. Does Philip Lindbergh. When he first taught, you expect this, here comes this kid out. He's 12, 21, 22. They trot him out at training camp to give a little, little media availability. And this voice comes out. I'm like, holy crap. I've been told people reacted to me back in the day when I was 21, was just starting radio with the pipes. What the hell? He's got the voice. I mean, he could do like voiceover work. But he and Louis Domingue have been great down in Wilkes-Barre. Brandon, I wonder about the blue line and how the left side will play out over the next 2 to 3 years. P.O. Joseph has not been great when given the chance, but with more ice time and consistency, he'll be in the lineup. Yeah, I think P.O. has to build some hate and build some confidence. Last year, he got by on adrenaline. Now he has to build that a bit of that edge and that chip on his shoulder and that belief. I know I belong. Sit down, shut up. I got this kind of attitude. He has to take that last step. We've seen he has the skills, right? Now he has to take that mental step where his game is consistent, where it's not up and down, and even within the same game or shift to shift, he has to stabilize all of that and bring his best more often. Let's see here. I wonder what Dumo's next contract. I think Dumoulin signed for a little while. I'm not going to worry about him so much. Dan, do you think it would be unrealistic to target Trocheck next year in free agency? The Penguins have so many question marks that Ron Hextall has to answer. I honestly don't know. I don't know where the Penguins are going to be in 12 months. I mean, they'll be in Pittsburgh. They'll be in PPG, that much we know. I don't know what their team is going to look like. Until this sale, I would have told you that Malkin and Letang would be on the team, and I think they would be fairly compensated. I don't know about well compensated, but I think they would have been fairly compensated. I don't know what happens now. Like we talked about earlier in this here little show, a new owner can say, I don't care about the loyalty. I don't care if Butch and Sundance ride into the sunset. We want to win. I think fan sentiment doesn't matter as much to Fenway. If you look at how they've treated Liverpool, the fans really aren't big fans of John Henry over in Liverpool. And recently, John, the Fenway group chose not to pay Mookie Betts, an MVP of the Boston Red, not of the Boston, but an MVP of baseball. The Red Sox let Betts get away. So they're not cheap by any means. They're very smart. I think they think out of the box. They're all about, here's what somebody told me about them who works closely with them up in Boston. I've been doing my homework on them. I don't really have a story to publish. other than, hey, some of my colleagues said this about them, which is kind of boring to me. Um, but somebody put it very properly. It was my impression of them too, so it kind of lined up. And forgive me, my nose is getting a little bit stuffed up here. We'll have to wrap this up soon. They said they're into dynamic. And what that means is they're not confined by consensus or traditional thinking. They are all about like new and innovative, fresh, exciting, or fun and money. So if they feel like they can improve the Pittsburgh Penguins fan experience, arena, their team, they're going to do it, which is good, but they're also going to do it in some ways that you don't want them to. Or they're going to, they're going to see some things as superfluous or unnecessary, or things they don't like that you want, or that you like. And they're going to, this is all part of the thing, right? Change. Changes. Turn and face the change. Okay, let's see here. Matt. Well, non-Penguins, but McDavid has another absolute barn burner of a goal over Winnipeg just now. Apparently, teams don't make contact on him. Let's wrap up the show with this. And here's the last call for your questions and everything else. Excuse me. Drinking this much Coca-Cola with a stuffy nose. I'm gonna look at it. I don't just go all full Howard Stern and just start burping at you. Let's talk a bit about this McDavid kerfuffle that really occurred last week. Did anybody else notice how many of the Canadian media rushed to defend Connor McDavid from John Tortorella when Tort said McDavid had to change his game, had to play more defense, had to sacrifice a bit of offense to win a Stanley Cup? Now, maybe we should change. If we're asking the best player in the game to change his game, well, maybe the game is wrong. I saw that opinion a couple times by big national reporters in Canada. And I was like, wow. When Sidney Crosby was getting his head beat in and not winning Stanley Cups, when it was okay to water ski behind him or tackle him or cross-check him about the head until you saw blood and then a couple more, hammers to the cranium, that was okay. No one said, well, maybe the game should protect the superstar here a little bit. And when Mario Lemieux called out the league because guys were water skiing behind him, it was impossible to play the beautiful game. The Canadian media jumped all over him as well. Never before has everyone said, well, maybe we have to change the game. If the best player in the game isn't good enough to win a Stanley Cup, we have to change the game. I was like, what in God's name just happened? What happened that McDavid gets this sort of preferential treatment that Crosby and Lemieux never received? I'm not sure I like it. I'm almost a little bit on behalf of Crosby and on behalf of Mario. I'm a little bit angry, I think. I'm a little bit offended because this has been going on. Star players have been mugged, hacked, and whacked and held down in the playoffs, and the third line grinders have been the deciding factors for at least most of my lifetime. This is the way the game has been played and won, and that's how the big 34.5-pound silver chalice has been lifted. And that is why Crosby became a national icon, not when he scored the 2010 golden goal, but when he dribbled PK Subban's head on the ice like a basketball. That's when Don Cherry, and that's when everybody looked at Sidney Crosby and said, that's the tough guy willing to do anything to win the Stanley Cup. That's the guy. That's how you win the cup. That's how you play hockey. I used to laugh at a lot of my readers. A lot of you used to criticize me when I praised that moment. It wasn't so big here in Pittsburgh, but I assure you, in terms of the perception of Sidney Patrick Crosby, that moment was huge because he adopted that gritty, grimy, a little bit dirty, it's for the Stanley Cup. It's okay. You have to be willing to do anything and everything to win the cup. And Crosby showed in that moment that he would, and so he was embraced. Now McDavid, wants to free skate in the playoffs, and we're like, well, maybe we should let him. What? No. You made superstars for 40 years have to swim through a sewer of hacks, a sewer of pluggers, plumbers, and grinders. And now, because McDavid can't win anything, you're going to defend him against John Tortorella? To hell with that. All right, that's the end of the show. Hey, I appreciate y'all hopping on board. Do me a favor, like, subscribe, give us a click on Pittsburgh Hockey Now. We'll be right back at it tomorrow. And, of course, full coverage on Saturday. We'll have some help with Toronto Hockey Now on Saturday. So check out the full National Hockey Now sites. I will be digesting a good bit of NyQuil along with nasal spray and some Coca-Cola. Have fun.